Seal has sold out arenas across the world. His voice carried Kiss from a Rose into the history books, and for decades one detail followed him everywhere he went: the deep coin-shaped scars across his face. For years the rumors ran wild: tribal scarification, a childhood accident, even darker stories that tabloids loved to print and never bothered to check. Seal stayed quiet about it for a long time. Then he didn't. What he revealed was not a myth, it was a disease, and it started on a wall on his 21st birthday with a single spot on the side of his face. Seal remembers the moment with strange clarity. He was sitting on a wall, celebrating turning 21, when he noticed a small mark forming on one side of his face. It didn't look like much. A blemish, maybe, the kind of thing you forget about by morning. It didn't go away, it spread. He went to doctors, then more doctors. Nobody could tell him what it was, not right away, and not for a long time after that. The condition kept advancing while the diagnosis kept slipping through everyone's hands. Here's the part that stings the most. Discoid lupus erythematosus, the disease actually attacking his skin, responds well to early treatment. Catch it fast, and scarring can often be prevented entirely. Seal didn't get that chance. He got steroid treatments for something doctors couldn't name, while the real disease kept burning through his skin underneath. By the time the right specialist finally looked at him and said the word lupus, the damage was already permanent. Discoid lupus erythematosus is not the systemic version of the disease most people picture, the kind that attacks organs. Seal himself has made that distinction publicly. In his own words, his form isn't as serious as systemic lupus because it doesn't touch the internal organs. What it does instead is turn the immune system against the skin, specifically the skin above the neck. Face, scalp, ears, the disease works by convincing the body that its own healthy tissue is a threat, so it attacks. Inflammation builds. Lesions form, raised, scaly, coin-shaped, which is exactly where the name discoid comes from. Left alone, those lesions don't just heal and fade like a normal wound. They leave behind deep, permanent scarring, and they can wipe out the hair follicles underneath them for good. That second part hit Seal hard. The condition didn't just scar his face, it caused significant damage to his scalp, and that damage cost him hair permanently, in patches that never grew back. Doctors call this kind of scarring cicatricial, meaning the damage doesn't reverse. Once discoid lupus destroys the skin structure underneath, no cream, no treatment, no amount of time undoes it. The window to stop it is early, and Seal's window closed while doctors were still guessing. Seal has said the scars were traumatizing to him, especially in his younger years, before the world knew who he was. Imagine going through your early 20s, the years everyone else spends figuring out how they look, how they're seen, while your own face is actively changing without your permission, and nobody can tell you why. He's talked about the psychological toll almost as candidly as the physical one. For years, decades even, he also carried anxiety and panic attacks alongside the visible scarring. The two things happened in parallel, the disease on the outside, the fear on the inside, and he's been open that both took a long time to make peace with. But here's where his story shifts. Somewhere along the way, Seal stopped hiding the scars and started owning them. He's called them his battle wounds in interview after interview. Not a flaw to disguise, a record of something he survived. That reframe didn't happen overnight. It happened slowly, the way most real acceptance does. For years, nobody had the real story, so the public wrote its own. Some insisted it was tribal scarification, a nod to some cultural ritual that never actually applied to him. Others spun stories about a violent accident, each version more dramatic than the last. None of it was true, and Seal eventually said so directly, on record, ending the guessing game for good. The scars were never a ritual. They were never an accident. They were lupus, an autoimmune disease that misdiagnosis in time turned into something permanent. It's worth sitting with why those rumors spread so easily in the first place. A famous face with unexplained scarring is an irresistible mystery to the public, and mystery gets filled with whatever story sounds most interesting, not whatever story is true. Seal's real explanation is quieter than the myths. It's also the only one that actually happened. Here's the detail that surprises people most. Seal's lupus has been in remission for years now. The disease itself is no longer active. It's not attacking his skin anymore, and hasn't for a long time. But remission doesn't mean reversal. The scars that formed while the disease was active are permanent. They're not a symptom of ongoing illness. They're the leftover architecture of a battle that already ended. Seal carries the evidence of a fight he already won on his own face every single day. That's not a small detail. It reframes the entire story. What looks like an active condition to strangers meeting him for the first time is actually closed history. The disease is gone. What remains is proof it was ever there at all. Seal spent years being asked to explain his face by people who assumed the worst, or the most exotic, or the most dramatic version of events. The truth turned out to be simpler and heavier at the same time. A misdiagnosed autoimmune disease, caught too late, that changed the way the world's most recognizable soul voice would look for the rest of his life. He didn't get to choose that. What he did get to choose was what it meant, and somewhere between a wall on his 21st birthday and arenas full of people singing his songs back to him, Seal decided his scars weren't something to explain away. They were something to wear.